Today's video is of two additions to my game room in the bathroom, but I'll start with a quick tour of my bar to show you some of the things that are in it. I've done videos on some of these machines. The bar came from a furniture store in Atlanta, Georgia. Came in 15 different pieces, had to put it all together. There's a wall box that will activate the AMI Continental back in the corner. And the bartender's got control over volume and rejecting sounds or records. This stove belonged to my aunt and uncle. It's from the 20s. Pool table, Acme roulette. Done a video on that, you can go watch it. This is my wife and I's wedding picture, 1981, a few years ago. And down here, my high school graduation and Sherry's high school graduation. Autographed picture of David Copperfield when I restored his Paces races. Panning across the north wall, we have a Mills Violano Regina Changer, Wurlitzer Orchestrion, All-American Baseball, a selection of door pushes from grocery stores, collection of tap handles, and some miniature bottles. But let's look at the two things that I've just added. First is, if you need to go to the bathroom, have to put in a coin. I have both tokens and dimes. It says vacant in there right now, and now it's in use. It actually doesn't lock the door. I was going to have it hooked up and have you actually have to use it, but I didn't want people to drain their bladder right on my floor here as they're trying to figure out how to get in the bathroom, so I just made it decorative, not functional. Anyways, enter the bathroom. And we have Kentucky Fried Chicken lights, which you can't see because they're on. Let me turn them off for a moment. There you go. You can see what they look like. These are the ones from the 50s. Painted glass. And back wall. It's a shaving and vending themed bathroom. So you walk on in and still have my door lock here. I can get some privacy. Look at the other wall. selection of vending type items and shaving items. The bull's head perfume is in another YouTube video. You can watch that, take it completely through the vendor, show you how it works. And over here we have display cases with razor blades, shaving items, coin operated soap dispenser and hair tonic. These are what are called home and auto. They work off both 110 and 12 volts. So you could shave in your car while you're driving. See, they had ways of distracting you even before cell phones. You could drive and shave at the same time. So we have the sink, and then over here the toilet is the old-fashioned pull chain type. And we have a Veeder-Root counter. Every time I flush, gotta keep track of how much toilet paper you're putting down the drain. Alright, so what's the second addition to this bathroom? It is this. Directly across from the toilet, parking meter. Just refurbished the whole thing, and I'm going to come have a seat. And the idea here is, if you want to park it, you got to pay for it. But I'll provide the coins. Alright, I can sit here for 30 minutes now and do my business. So let's go through both the parking meter and the pay toilet lock and show you how they work. I'm disassembling the front face of this parking meter. So far I have this much removed, and behind these pieces, once I remove these, I expose more of the mechanism that is hidden by all those pieces. And I wanted to look at the interaction of these levers and cams while I've got those front pieces away, and you can see what's happening here. And so this lever has a protrusion that falls into a slot, and if I move this out of the way, it goes out of that slot and it allows this mechanism to start working. And so I'll move this lever off to the side and let the peg clear out of that slot, and you'll watch this mechanism cycle. Do it a couple more times here. And I'll slow it down here just a little bit by holding on to this cam. Now normally with the rest of these pieces in front that blocks all this, there's a mechanism that holds it in this position, and the pointer is pointing at how much time you have, and then when it times out, then it allows it to complete this cycle. And we're back to time expired. When you're down to this part of the disassembly and all the gears have been removed except this last one, because it's connected to this cam on this side, the way this disconnects is that you need to hold on to the cam and take the gear and rotate it. and it does unscrew from the cam. So you see that that is threaded, and this hole is threaded. So that's how you remove this gear. Now I can finish removing the rest of this by taking out that screw, and all of this will come off as one assembly. Here it is, torn all the way down with most of the pieces cleaned up. Now it's ready to go back together. This shot is taken with this front plate removed, so you can see where the coin goes and how it triggers the mechanism, and also the diameter. With the nickel being larger, it will cause 30 minutes to be put on the meter, where a dime will cause 1 hour to be placed on the meter. So with my finger here to stop the gears and clockwork mechanisms or slow it down, the nickel will fall down and it will seat right there between those two pegs, and in doing that it moved this lever out of the way. That allows the clockwork mechanism to start. Now, because of the diameter of the nickel, it is pushing this finger right here. You can see that has the ability to move, and there's a peg or a finger that's sitting here that's going to ride up around, and because of where this is with the nickel in place, the position of it right there, you see how it pushed that finger out a little bit. So this protrusion right up here on this circle, it will cause this finger to ride up and over that, and what that does is it determines which one of these teeth in the back that protrusion, that finger will rest on, because that protrusion resting on one of those notches on that back cam, that is what's connected up to the pointer, and this catching in those notches pushes the pointer onward and sets it for a certain amount of time. So we're going to try to do this slowly. Let a little bit of the clockwork mechanism go. Also, you'll see this cam right here is rotating, and it will start to push on this lever. Pushing on this lever causes this lever here to go downward, and the previous coin that would be sitting right here, you can view it through the viewing window in the front. This going down will let that coin clear out. Alright, so now you'll watch this start to go up around, and it will ride up and over this because the nickel and where it's keeping it. Alright, and now there's some other gears or levers and arms that are behind all of this, and what those levers are doing is pushing up on this, and right here where this cam comes around, it's lifting this up into position. And so we'll let this go a little bit farther, and this is rotating around in a circle, so it's going to allow the nickel to eventually drop down. But watch this finger as it keeps going, it's got to ride up and over this, so we'll let that occur. Alright, there it is, up and over. We continue to rotate here so that the nickel can fall down, and at this point this finger has gotten up and over, and it's going to go catch that one notch on that second cam in back of this first one. So you can't quite see that second one in back, but that's where it's going to catch to set the pointer to the right amount of time. Alright, so there now it's fallen down in, and it's grabbing that notch that's attached to this pointer. It's going to set it up to 30. As this continues to rotate and allows the nickel to drop down, And now because of the extra force needed to push this, it's all friction up here, the clock mechanism actually stops, and then it doesn't go on its own because it needs a little bit of momentum. I'm going to have to help it along here just a little bit. All right, and then now the nickel has dropped down, but where it ends up resting is right here. Remember, that front face is holding it so it doesn't go anyplace, doesn't fall out frontwards. And then I'll push a little bit farther, and this goes up and over. There's a peak here on this front cam, and that peak causes this to go up and clear off of that notch in the back, and it clears off right at the time you want. And then if I let it keep continuing to go, it then eventually gets back to the at-rest position. What's keeping this at rest is this lever here falling back to the right into a notch. And if the front plate was on, the nickel would have ended up resting right there. And that can be seen through the viewing window. And so that put 30 minutes on the timer. Now if you need to adjust that, if you need to be right on the money or it's a little bit off, you'll see that there's a screw, a small flat or a slotted screw. It's a round head machine screw, but right in through that hole. And I can move this out here. I'll set more time on it to where you can see it plainly now. Here it is. So if I loosen it up, it allows the pointer to be moved in relationship to these notches. And these notches here that I'm pointing to, this is that lever and back. Those notches are what get grabbed and pushed by this when it rotates around. All right, so let's say I've got 30 minutes on, and let's say I put a dime in now instead. A dime's going to give us an hour. And so when the dime comes down, it does the same thing. It pushes this finger out of the way, and if you notice, when it's sitting here, I can't push this out because right there, that little finger is sitting in that little notch, preventing it from going out. But when a coin comes, the first thing it does is push down here and rotate that so it comes up out of that notch. And now it allows the mechanism to start. So as we rotate with the dime in place, the difference here is that the dime has not contacted this finger, and so what that allows the finger to do is ride to the right or rotate to the right, and now when this comes around, it will not be pushed out of the way by this extra protrusion. And so not getting pushed out will allow it to catch an earlier notch, which is going to push the needle farther. So notice now that with this cam moving, it's letting this come down to clear the previous coin, and this one is still getting ready to drop in its place. While meanwhile up here, I've fully gotten this moved out of the way. This is swung way over to the right, and now this piece can go over and catch one of the first notches, and that's going to allow it to be pushed much farther. See, so I went from a minute to, I went from 30 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes, got an hour for my dime. And then we finish out this cycle as this goes up and over and then returns back. This falls into place, holding it all. Right here in the center, there's two wheels that have serrated teeth. They're not gears actually, they're just serrations that a rubber wheel sits on to provide some friction. One of these wheels in the front goes all the way through the clockwork mechanism and is held onto the shaft solid, but the one in back is actually movable, and there's a wave washer in between these two. So one of the adjustments you can make is you loosen this nut and you turn this wheel either it's threaded, so it goes on this threaded shaft, and it'll either move closer or farther away to the back serrated wheel, and so that causes that wave washer to be compressed more or less. What you're doing is you're adjusting the amount of friction that this needle pointer has on it. So you want a little bit of friction, not too loose so it falls on its own, but not too tight all the way squished down. You don't want these all the way squeezed together, because that's a lot of friction and a lot for this Clockworks, you know, these cams to try to push. So that's where they are, right there in the center, and this back one is the one that's attached to the pointer. The tick-tock you hear when the meter is running is actually a regular Clockworks escapement, and so we are timing right now. I've got some time on the meter, and what's interesting about this is these particular types of escapements, they could get into a position where from at rest they don't want to start up and start rotating. So there at rest you could get it to where, yeah, every once in a while you get, if it's adjusted really well, it will want to start on its own. And this one's been completely gone through and lubed, cleaned up, so you can see I can't quite, wants to start even from the dead beat, or, you know, center position. But you know, you can have a situation, a little bit of friction on it, and it would not want to start. It would just sit right here in the middle. So what they did to try to solve that problem, very unique, there's a lever which is back here, and you can just see it right there. You'll see it move in a minute, but that lever is actually used to start and stop this, as well as give it a little bit of kick when it sits on the back side. And so what I'm going to do is take all the time off of the pointer, put it back to 0 time, and you'll watch this lever rotate down and stop the escapement. Right, so that quickly dropped back down. Now when I put some time on the meter, what will happen is that as all of those gears and levers and pegs in the front rotate and operate, what they will do is push up the time scale, or the graduated, you know, time indicator, into viewing position, and it will also flip this lever out of the way and give a little kick to that escapement. So I'll drop the coin in and you'll see all that happen pretty quick. There you go. From the side you can see that there's a lever right here. It's a little arm, and when this arm moves up out of the way, that arm is attached to a shaft that goes through, and that's what is driving that little lever on the inside. So moving this one on the outside causes that on the inside to move away and give a little kickstart to that escapement. And so by putting in a coin, I am both causing this to rotate and put this up into viewing position, my scale, but it also is moving this lever. See that lever go in and out? And so that starts the escapement and stops the escapement. It does take an 8-point spline type female drive to wind the mechanism, or the spring, and the keys for this you don't find very often. They do sell a socket tool. You can search for it. It's a 8-point spline. I think it's a 1/4 inch is this size, and that'll allow you to build your own winding key, or drive it with a socket set. Or the other thing you can do is get yourself a 1032 bolt or machine screw, and this particular one happens to have a socket head, a hex head socket, and so I can just wind it like this. Now, if you need to take yours apart for servicing, the way you get the original off of the back plate so you can take this apart is just go in the opposite direction, counterclockwise, and it actually will just unscrew. Once this cam pushes on the bottom of this and lifts your timer scale up into position, it holds it up in the air until the pointer can get underneath it, and you'll see a lip or a rail here, and then there's a slot cut, and the metal that was here is bent over, and so it's actually protruding backward, and it's acting as a ledge. That's what's holding this scale up in the air. And so as time goes by, when we get to 0, what happens is that little tab will work its way off the edge of this ledge past here, and once we're past this and not holding it up, that's when we drop down and we go back into violation, and also lowering that moves that lever and stops the escapement. So I'm going to move this off of that ledge, and that's what ends the timing sequence. You'll notice the speed at which all of this mechanism works and operates when I drop a coin in. Pretty quick. Alright. So that's what it should do when the mechanism's been completely taken apart, cleaned, lubricated, and adjusted. If yours is running slow compared to that, you may need a cleaning and an oiling, or you may have a mechanical bind somewhere. The coin entry has a trap door, so there is a piece of metal there that's preventing the coin from just dropping in. On the back side, that trap door is here. It's just a piece of spring steel, but there is also a lever, a spring-loaded lever, that can rotate inward, and when I put a coin in from the front, you can see that I start to move that trap door out of the way, but then I also rotate that lever and the coin comes in, and once the coin gets past a certain point, this helps to flick it in, suck it in, and put it in the right spot, which is flicking it right into there so it'll drop in the right spot. You can dry your hands using my 1920s vintage hand dryer. Some of the items on the shelves in the bathroom. Above the toilet. Another perfume dispenser. And a few shaving items. lollipop scale. Restored and working, but I won't step on it because I don't want you to see what it says for me over here. All the way on the other side it says one at a time please when I step on it, so maybe later. You can see it says vacant in that window, and I've inserted a coin. When I turn the knob, it stays in a locked position so you can no longer insert a coin. And this says in use now. That's a red label that I made and put on there. Originally it's just blank, it says nothing, but it's blocked so you can't put another coin in, and it stays in that locked position until you're ready to leave and you crank this knob. So I'm going to crank the knob on the back side here while I show you what happens on the front. As I crank the knob, it pulled in the lock and then let that go back to vacant. So you saw this would have been holding the door shut and latched. Now when I'm on the inside, if I want to make sure no one else can get in, I can turn this, and that is like a deadbolt inside the mechanism that just keeps that bolt thrown. And if I need to get out, that undoes the deadbolt and throws the latch like this so that I can get out. Let's take a look inside. On the door frame itself, I've put all the keys to the Nik-O-Lok, and found most of this stuff on eBay, but I thought this was kind of cute. It goes in a keychain. It says Nik-O-Lok key inside. Oh, there's a key, right? Well, when you open up and look in there, can't quite see it. What's in there is a dime. So you take the dime out and you put it in. That's your key to get in. A couple other keys. What this one does, this key here in the front, the only thing it does is allow you to throw the bolt. So this is a way that you can unlock and get into the bathroom without having any coin to deposit. And then this one here, very unique special key that Nik-O-Lok made up, and it goes in this special lock, and when you turn it, it has 4 different pegs that retract. All 4 of them pull back in and allow you to get to the coins. With the lock off, the coins are in here, and then if you need to take this case off, there are screws that have to be unscrewed. Then this will pivot away at the bottom, still latched on the top. You pivot away and lift up to clear the latch. Uh-oh, I'm almost out of time. Better hurry up and finish this video. With the outer case removed, this is that ledge or latch that the top of the case hangs on, and so you just have to pivot the case out a little bit and lift up so you clear this, and then you can pull it away. And when you put a coin in, the coin comes to rest right here between this finger and this pin. When I turn the crank handle on the front, it's turning this, which is rotating this, and you can see that right now without a coin, this lever with the little step in it is going to grab on that, hit, and stop this from moving any further. But once I put a coin in, the coin will come and rest between here, and it will contact this finger and cause it to not go all the way so the little notch catches on the edge and stops it. In other words, the coin acts as a wedge or a spacer to keep that away and let it start riding up and past, so that now as I continue to rotate up here I grab the door bolt and I throw it open. Now when I let back go again, what has happened is the act of going all the way past and letting the coin drop out, there's a lever behind on this back plate that comes down and it's got a hook that falls into position and catches underneath this assembly so that it's holding it from going all the way back. So now we're in the position where you would see in use, this little label I put on here, you would see that through the little window of the front case. And by turning this handle, what will happen is I'll be throwing this little lever out from underneath and letting this come back. So here we go. Turn the lever. And what that did was underneath the latch or the finger that bends over to 90 and holds us up in the air is thrown out of the way, and this can drop back or rotate back to its starting or at-rest position. And now vacant is lined up through the slot in the front access window. This lever coming up with this little like half circle hook, that's what throws the bolt backwards. As I turn the handle, you see that going. And it doesn't matter whether I turn the handle clockwise or counterclockwise. Both directions will cause the bolt to be drawn back. And the way that works, with this front assembly off, you could see that there's actually two levers back there, and this one lever on the right, when you're turning that handle, it pushes against the lever and draws it back. But if you go the opposite way, then what that handle does is a pin in that handle causes a secondary lever to move, and it's hinged and cantilevered so that going the other way will cause that to rotate and push back and cause the same thing to happen, this lever to throw back. So either way you rotate that handle, either through direct pushing or through counter lever force, you end up drawing this bolt backwards. And that lock on the front of the case that's used just to unlock this, there's a pin that when you turn that key, it pushes here. So this is used to manually open it up with the key. And here's the back side of that key. You can see that finger sticking out. That finger is what pushes on this to unlock the door. There is a Veeder-Root mechanical counter here on the side, so that every time I operate the door, I've coined it up, and as I rotate it, it increments, and so I know how many coins have been put in. With the case reinstalled, through the coin door there is a lever here that can be moved over and then dropped down, and what that does is expose the meter on this side. So you have to raise this lever and cover that up, which moves this tab up and out of the way so that the lock will go back on. With this over and down exposing the meter, then this is in a position where the lock will not fit on. It hits. So put that up and over, and now I can reinsert the lock.
For more information, visit gameroomrepair.com.